Hi, I'm Roger from Juice Bikes, and I'm here to help you fix a flat. Flats are an unfortunate part of biking and e-biking. It's important though to know how to fix one. Before we get started, here's what you need. 2 tire levers, an inner tube, 2 wrenches depending on the wheel you're removing. Today we're going to be using 15 millimeter, and a bike pump. I like using gloves to keep my hands clean. All these items can be purchased at your local bike shop or online. Before you fix the flat, you have to remove the wheel. For instructions on how to remove a front and rear wheel, watch these videos above. First off, we're going to check the tire for any obvious objects that are causing our flat. Do be careful running your hand across there because it could be something still sharp. Check really carefully. Sometimes you can't see things like glass and other things, but this one obviously has a nail in it. So we're going to remove this out. All right, the next step is to remove the valve cap and to release any air that is left in the tube. You can press down on this little valve stem right here and that will help release any air. All right, and now we're going to remove the tire from the wheel. Make sure to unseat the bead of the tire off of the wheel and do it on both sides so that we totally have this bead off of here. Then we're going to take our tire levers. We're going to insert a lever underneath the tire to help take it off of the wheel. And that'll make it easier for you to get the lever underneath. And we can start getting the tire off, and then just take the one lever and just get it across like this. And there you go. Next step is to remove the tube from inside the tire and the wheel. Next, you will press the valve stem in like this to try to get the tube out. These can be a little difficult to wrestle with at times, but if you start with the valve stem, it makes it a lot easier. And you can start to pull the tube out like that. All right, next step now that's really important before we put the new tube in is to check the tire, the inside of the tire, to make sure that there is nothing in there that is causing the flat. Especially if you had a flat that you didn't have anything on the outside, you want to double check on the inside because you could have something like a piece of glass or a thorn that might have popped off on the end here and you didn't notice it. So we want to double check this, but definitely be careful. After you're done checking, if you didn't find any intrusive objects or anything, you could have a pinch flat. A pinch flat is usually caused by the tube getting stuck between the tire and the rim itself. In that situation, of course, you will have to also replace the tube. Now we're going to replace with a new tube. And we're going to start off by pulling the valve cap. And we're going to put a little bit of air into it to give it a little bit of shape. And we just put just enough just to give it a little bit of shape. We don't want to put too much air into it because if we do, it's going to make it a little more difficult to put it in and to get the bead back in. So just enough to give it a little bit of shape like that. And that should do that. After we put a little bit of air into the tube, we're going to start by putting the tube now into the tire. You might have to lift this up, and we're going to try to line the stem up with the valve hole in your rim here. And you're going to try to line it up with the valve hole. And pull your valve stem through. Take your tire and lift it up and start stuffing the tube in there, making sure that we're keeping the tube nice and round. We don't want it like folded or anything like that. Make sure that none of the tube is stuck in between here because we don't want to be pushing the bead down and have a little bit of this tube stuck in there because then that will cause another pinch flat. Then we're going to start resetting the bead. Basically reseating the tire. We'll start here at the valve stem and doing as much as you can by hand even get as much as you can by hand. You can even kind of unseat the bead a little bit. That loosens it up and gives you a little bit more room to work with. But when you get towards the end, you're probably gonna have to use your levers. Again, you want to make sure there's no tube stuck in between when you start using your levers. And lever as much as you can, and then at the end, you should be able to do it by hand. Before we put air in there, we're going to double check both sides. Check, kind of lay down here on the tire, push down, make sure there's no tube sticking out anywhere. And we're going to even go on the other side here. We're going to check this side, making sure that there is no tube stuck between the tire and the rim. Before we add air, one last little tip. Make sure in this area right here by the valve stem that the tube is all the way inside the tire. We don't want any kind of pinch flat there. This is a common area with pinch flats, especially with thinner tires. With this tires, not so much, but with your thinner tires, you definitely want to double check this area before you do add air into it. Now it's time to put air into the tire. Make sure the pump head is secure onto the valve stem. Now start pumping up to your proper PSI. The proper PSI will be found usually on the side of your tire. Once you're at the proper PSI, remove the pump head, reinstall your valve cap. Now your wheel is ready to be put back onto your bike. For more information on how to reinstall your wheel, click on these video links above. You're all set to ride flat free. And for more Juice Bikes tips, subscribe to this channel or visit juicebikes.com.